Ryan Reynolds fired from Marvel? Yeah, you heard that right. The studio that banked millions on his charm, wit, and box office draw just dropped him like a bad habit. And the reason? A messy web of power plays, secret messages, and a Hollywood feud that no one saw coming, until Justin Baldoni dropped the receipts. Buckle up, because this story goes deeper than just a casting change. This is a cautionary tale of power, influence, and the dangerous game of celebrity politics. Ryan Reynolds was one of Marvel's most bankable stars. Deadpool redefined what an R-rated superhero movie could be, and with the MCU expanding, his presence was a major asset. His unique blend of sarcastic wit, action prowess, and undeniable charisma had made him a fan favorite, and his role as Deadpool was so synonymous with his personality that many believed he was irreplaceable. Marvel had built their empire on consistency, keeping key actors locked into decade-long contracts. So when news broke that Marvel had cut ties with him, the industry was left in shock. For a studio known for nurturing long-term relationships with its actors, this was an unprecedented move. Think about it. Marvel weathered public scandals with major stars before. From Robert Downey Jr.'s rocky past to Letitia Wright's controversy, they had always found a way to navigate the storm. But with Ryan, they didn't even attempt damage control. No negotiations, no gradual distancing. Just an abrupt and final termination. That alone signaled that whatever was happening behind the scenes was bigger than anyone could have imagined. The official announcement lacked the usual corporate cushioning. It was cold, calculated, and direct. A review of newly disclosed information led to the conclusion that Ryan's relationship with the studio was no longer tenable. What did that mean? Marvel, a studio that rarely engages in open feuds, was essentially saying, we can't be associated with him anymore. That level of finality sent shockwaves through Hollywood. The speculation began immediately. Could this be an elaborate PR stunt? A misinterpretation of behind-the-scenes drama? Was Marvel overreacting? Or was there something so damning about Ryan's involvement that even one of the most powerful movie studios in the world had to sever ties immediately? As the days unfolded, it became clear that this was not a simple contract dispute or a disagreement over creative direction. The answer, as it turns out, involved a tangled web of power struggles, leaked messages, and behind-the-scenes manipulation that went far beyond a simple disagreement. What made it even more shocking was how deeply Ryan's wife, Blake Lively, was intertwined in the chaos.
It's believing that people and humanity are inherently good. And they crave nutritious food in their soul, just as they do in their bodies.
Ryan wasn't just collateral damage, he was actively implicated in a calculated effort to control a narrative, undermine a filmmaker, and sway public perception. Hollywood's golden couple wasn't looking so golden anymore. While everything seemed great for Ryan on the surface, insiders hinted that trouble was brewing. It all started with a high-profile film project that had nothing to do with Marvel, but ended up being the catalyst for his downfall. The project was supposed to be a dream collaboration, Blake Lively starring, Justin Baldoni directing, and a highly anticipated novel adaptation as the source material. The excitement was palpable. Fans of the book eagerly awaited a cinematic adaptation, and industry insiders saw it as a project with serious awards potential. But things got messy fast. From the very beginning, there were subtle signs of friction. Blake Lively, known for being meticulous about her roles, reportedly had strong opinions on how the film should be shaped. She wanted to be more involved in the creative process, not just as an actress, but as a decision-maker behind the scenes. Initially, it was seen as an ambitious move, a way for her to establish herself as more than just a leading lady. But as production moved forward, reports began surfacing about tension on set, particularly between Blake and Justin. At first, the disputes seemed minor, creative disagreements about script changes, set design, and directorial choices. But then, whispers began spreading that Blake was clashing with Justin on a much deeper level. Sources claimed that she was frustrated with how much authority he held over the project, believing that her ideas weren't being taken seriously. Tensions escalated further when it became clear that Justin wasn't just directing. He was deeply involved in the screenplay and overall storytelling approach. Some crew members described an uncomfortable atmosphere, where disagreements turned into power struggles. Meetings reportedly became heated, with Blake pushing for changes and Justin standing his ground as the director. The production, which was supposed to be smooth and collaborative, became riddled with conflicting visions. Yet, most assumed that this was just another case of Hollywood creative differences, something that happens all the time in filmmaking. But then the whispers got louder. Rumors began circulating that Blake wasn't just advocating for creative input. She was actively trying to take control of key decisions. She reportedly wanted a say in the editing process, marketing strategies, and even how the film's narrative was positioned to the press. That's when things took a dramatic turn, because suddenly Ryan Reynolds' name started coming up. At first, it seemed harmless. Ryan was a supportive husband, known for standing by Blake's career choices. But then came allegations that he wasn't just supporting Blake, he was actively involved behind the scenes, leveraging his influence to back her power moves. Industry insiders started noticing shifts in the press narrative surrounding the project. Negative stories about Justin's leadership style started popping up, painting him as rigid and difficult to work with. Meanwhile, Blake was portrayed as the visionary trying to push for a better film. It didn't take long before people started connecting the dots. Ryan, one of Hollywood's most well-connected actors, had the ability to influence media coverage and industry conversations. As more reports surfaced about Blake's growing frustrations with Justin, so did stories that Justin might not be as collaborative as he seemed. The question was, were these leaks organic, or was there something more calculated at play? And then, suddenly, the entire situation exploded into a full-blown scandal. The rumors turned into evidence as Justin Baldoni decided to take matters into his own hands and expose what was really going on behind the scenes. That's when the real damage began. Everything exploded when Justin Baldoni released a bombshell. Leaked private messages, emails, and internal communications that completely flipped the narrative. These weren't just vague accusations, these were receipts, undeniable and time-stamped, detailing a level of manipulation that Hollywood had rarely seen so publicly exposed. The messages allegedly showed Blake maneuvering to gain more control over the project and using her influence to reshape public perception. But the real shocker? Ryan Reynolds was implicated in the entire ordeal, not as a distant observer, but as an active participant in a strategic campaign to discredit Justin. At first, the public struggled to believe it. Ryan had always been known as the charming, self-aware star who could effortlessly blend humor with action. His public persona revolved around wit, relatability, and an almost too perfect marriage with Blake. But when Justin dropped the receipts, everything changed. The leaked messages painted a much different picture of Ryan, one that was calculating, involved, and willing to pull industry strings to sway narratives in his and Blake's favor. Screenshots of conversations revealed discussions about how to manipulate the press, whom to contact for negative coverage of Justin, and how to subtly reframe Blake as the victim of a difficult filmmaker. One message in particular stood out. Ryan allegedly strategizing ways to ensure that press coverage leans in Blake's favor, and that Justin's resistance to creative input is the story, not hers. These weren't casual remarks, they were part of a carefully orchestrated effort to control how the public perceived the conflict. Other messages hinted at phone calls with key Hollywood players, studio executives, reporters, and PR teams, where Ryan and Blake allegedly positioned Justin as an unyielding director, unwilling to accommodate a lead actress's vision. At the same time, additional messages suggested that they were also working behind the scenes to ensure that any attempts by Justin to push back were either downplayed or ignored by major media outlets. As more of these messages surfaced, it became clear that what had started as a creative dispute had escalated into a full-blown smear campaign. The goal? To make Justin look difficult and unprofessional while making Blake appear as the wrong party, a female star simply trying to have her creative voice heard in an industry historically dominated by men.
It's believing that people and humanity are inherently good. And they crave nutritious food in their soul, just as they do in their bodies.
For many fans, this was a major turning point. Ryan had always been seen as someone who didn't take himself too seriously, who understood Hollywood's power structures but never seemed to abuse them. The revelation that he may have been actively leveraging his influence in a calculated manner sent shockwaves through the industry. What made things worse was that these messages weren't just a few offhand remarks taken out of context. They were detailed, lengthy exchanges that painted a clear picture of an effort spanning weeks, possibly months. At first, Ryan's camp remained silent. No comments, no social media reactions, just an eerie radio silence that only made things look worse. Fans waited for a denial, an explanation, anything that might counterbalance the overwhelming evidence. But none came. Meanwhile, Justin remained composed. He didn't use the moment to gloat or throw accusations beyond what had already been revealed. Instead, he simply let the messages speak for themselves. And they spoke volumes. This was no longer a private conflict. It had become an industry-wide scandal, one that Marvel could not afford to ignore. Marvel had a huge problem on their hands. Ryan Reynolds wasn't just another actor. He was a crucial part of their expanding cinematic universe. The studio had big plans for him, with rumors of multiple Deadpool crossovers and even leadership roles in future projects. With the MCU constantly evolving, Ryan was positioned to be a central figure, especially given the franchise's push toward integrating humor and irreverence into its next phase. Deadpool wasn't just another character, he was a franchise within a franchise, one of the few properties Marvel had acquired from Fox that was almost guaranteed to print money at the box office. But Marvel is also a brand that thrives on a squeaky clean reputation. Disney, its parent company, operates under a strict brand image, carefully curating its roster of talent to ensure that no scandal overshadows its billion-dollar films. The moment the leaked messages came to light, executives started scrambling to figure out the best course of action. Damage control was an option, but only if the controversy was manageable. However, with receipts circulating across industry insiders and Justin Baldoni standing firm in his decision to expose the situation, Marvel realized it had a full-scale PR disaster waiting to happen. An emergency meeting was reportedly called, gathering the highest-ranking executives, PR strategists, and legal teams to evaluate the situation. What they saw wasn't just a minor behind-the-scenes squabble, it was a detailed, documented case of manipulation, involving a beloved Marvel actor actively engaging in attempts to discredit another high-profile filmmaker. Marvel had weathered controversies before, but this was different. Ryan wasn't just caught up in a rumor, he was tied directly to coordinated efforts to shape a false narrative. Insiders claimed that the evidence was damning. The leaked messages showed a pattern of influence that went beyond just supporting Blake. Ryan had actively advised on strategies, leveraged his industry connections, and even suggested how to spin media angles. Worse yet, these messages allegedly implicated others within Hollywood, raising concerns about how deep this kind of behavior ran. Marvel had no choice but to consider the wider implications. If they chose to ignore it, they risked their own credibility. The studio had built a reputation for maintaining strong, controversy-free relationships with its stars, and turning a blind eye to something this significant could spark backlash not only from fans, but from other industry professionals who were already growing wary of unchecked Hollywood power dynamics. The last thing Marvel needed was to be seen as complicit in a system that enabled the kind of manipulation these leaked messages suggested. Executives reportedly debated whether there was a way to salvage the situation.
Well, that is also accurate and weirdly high praise as well. It was just one of those. It felt like a live-action Pixar movie. It was something that I wanted to do something where nobody was being stabbed in the face.
Yes.
There was almost no blood at all. I think I got a little paper cut on the movie. That was about it. And something that my kids can watch, but also as a parent, too, you want the parents need to get punched right in the heart as well.
I mean,
Could a public apology from Ryan fix things? Could they wait for the controversy to die down? Could they shift focus elsewhere and hope fans would forget? The answer became clear. This wasn't something they could sweep under the rug. The controversy was already too big, and with social media amplifying every new development, delaying action could only make things worse. And so, they made the call. Ryan Reynolds was out. Marvel wasted no time finalizing their decision. The studio, which typically crafts carefully worded statements meant to be vague and non-committal, issued an unusually direct announcement. They cited a review of newly disclosed information and concluded that Ryan's continued involvement with Marvel was no longer tenable. The wording was sharp, leaving no room for ambiguity. The announcement sent shockwaves through Hollywood. This wasn't just Marvel dropping an actor, this was Marvel severing ties with one of their most profitable stars, someone they had actively promoted as a cornerstone of their future. The decision was final. Ryan Reynolds was no longer part of the MCU, and with that, the industry knew. Something serious had gone down behind the scenes, and Marvel wasn't willing to take the risk of standing by him. When Marvel made the announcement, it wasn't wrapped in corporate fluff. It was blunt and direct. The statement cited a review of newly disclosed information and made it clear that Ryan's relationship with the studio was over. There was no attempt at damage control, no effort to soften the blow. It was a clean cut. Fans were left reeling. How could a beloved star, one who had seamlessly merged his own comedic persona with Deadpool, be let go so abruptly? Was Marvel overreacting? Or was the evidence against Ryan simply too damning to ignore? The entertainment industry was sent into a frenzy. Studios that had previously lined up to work with Ryan suddenly started reconsidering. The fact that Marvel, a studio that had managed to quietly handle other controversies in the past, was willing to go public with this decision made it clear that this was serious. Ryan, normally quick with humor, stayed silent. No witty tweets, no lighthearted Instagram posts, just radio silence. And in Hollywood, that silence speaks volumes. Blake Lively wasn't left unscathed by the fallout. Her attorney cut ties with her, citing irreconcilable differences in her account of events. That only fueled speculation. Was she the mastermind behind the entire conflict, or had she and Ryan equally shaped the campaign against Justin Baldoni? Meanwhile, the public opinion on Blake started to shift. Fans who once rushed to defend her began questioning whether she was as innocent as she initially claimed. And with the evidence stacking up, even her most loyal supporters found it harder to ignore the growing controversy. Unlike many in Hollywood, Justin didn't gloat about the downfall of his former collaborators. He let the receipts do the talking. He didn't frame himself as a hero, nor did he indulge in a victory lap. Instead, he focused on the importance of transparency and standing by creative integrity. For him, this was never about personal revenge. It was about exposing the kind of behind-the-scenes manipulation that had been plaguing the industry for years. He reaffirmed his commitment to his project and made it clear that he wanted to move forward without the unnecessary drama. The big question now, can Ryan Reynolds recover from this? Hollywood loves a comeback story, but this isn't just a simple PR misstep. This is a fundamental breach of trust. His reputation, once untouchable, now has a massive stain on it. Marvel was his golden ticket, and without it, his prospects look uncertain. Will other studios take the risk of working with him? Will he attempt to rehabilitate his image with an apology, or will he fight back against the allegations? And more importantly, will the industry be willing to forgive him? Marvel's decision to cut Ryan loose wasn't just about one actor, it sent a message to the entire industry. The days of unchecked celebrity influence and behind-the-scenes power plays might finally be coming to an end. Studios are now more aware than ever that even their biggest stars can become liabilities if they're caught engaging in unethical behavior. In the end, this isn't just about Ryan, Blake, or Justin. It's about a shifting industry landscape where transparency and integrity matter more than ever. And as Hollywood continues to evolve, one thing is clear. No one, no matter how famous, is immune from accountability. Let me know in the comments, was Marvel right to fire Ryan Reynolds? And if you're still here, hit that like button and subscribe, because this Hollywood drama, it's just getting started.